Welcome to the Magdalene Voices, giving voice to those silenced for centuries through sacred conversations with beautiful, illuminating souls. I'm your host, spiritual business coach, mentor, catalyst, and facilitator Maria Estella. I serve spiritual entrepreneurs, Magdalene's rising, and radiant beings just like you with the expansion and growth of yourself and your business, aligning you with your deep inner truth, bringing to life that which you're here to birth, and supporting you in expressing your soul's divine purpose through your being and your doing in this lifetime. If you haven't already, I highly encourage you to join my newsletter to stay connected and updated. You can do so on my website, mariaestella.com, where you can also find previous episodes and their show notes. And if you have ever wondered about your Magdalene connection and calling, and whether you are a Magdalene, I invite you to download the free Magdalene Blueprint I've created for you. Go to mariaestella.com/AYM to get it. Finally, if you're a soul-driven, heart-based spiritual entrepreneur, don't forget to check out my new podcast, Spiritual Business with Maria Estella. It's designed to inspire you, empower you, guide you, nurture you, and activate you. You can find it on YouTube as well as everywhere podcasts are broadcasted, or simply click the link in the show notes. Hello, Radiant One, and welcome to today's episode of the Magdalene Voices. I would be lying if I said that I was thrilled or excited to be sharing this. It's not that I'm not thrilled or excited. It's just, it's a topic that, it's something that's extremely important to me. But it's also something where, it's a sensitive subject, and I guess it's both very personal, but also very, very, very much for the collective. And it's funny because before sitting down to record this, and this is how I knew that I was kind of maybe not, jumping in. I'm sure that by the time I'm through this recording, everything will be, amazing and fantastic as it always is. But jumping in, I was, on websites checking out shampoo, and I was checking out my Facebook, and I was doing all of these things. I was considering whether or not I should clean my office, and I was doing all of these I don't want to call them gateways, but like these procrastinating things where we try to get out of what we know we quote unquote have to do. Spiritual bypassing, which is the topic for today, has been coming up to me for the past few days. And at first I was like, I'm not sure I want to go there. But I also understand that it is extremely necessary that more and more of us share our experiences with spiritual bypassing. And when I say share it with, I mean take responsibility for the spiritual bypassing that we have been a part of and have done in the past. Because as Magdalenes, you and I, being a Magdalene means that you've made your journey from your mind into your heart, and you're living and being from that space, doing from that space. And so in that comes there's an honesty, and there's a truth, and there's a commitment to look at what we necessarily don't want to look at, and to acknowledge and quote unquote honor and clean up the shit that we've done in the past, if and when we've been part of this. And so that's why I thought, or that's why I've been called, because parts of me is not necessarily me. It's been whenever I do these one-on-one episodes of the Magdalene Voices, I do them based on what I'm called towards. And as with today's episode, and as with other episodes, this was not necessarily one that I was wanting to do, but I I've chosen to surrender myself into the arms of God, into the arms of Spirit, and so I will share that, even if it is scary and fearful. Yeah. One of the Right before I went on or started recording, one of the sentences that came up for me was a quote that I heard from Mary Ann Williamson many moons ago, and she said, "The only way to find your voice is to use it." And so there's no way. You can't you can't sit yourself down and just think your way through it. You have to, I guess, feel your way through it and actually work your way through it, experience your way through it. And so that's what I'm doing today as I dive into this this topic. And again, I want to emphasize that I'm sharing from, based on my experience, based on my actions, based on what I've seen, and so I haven't gone onto Wikipedia and found the definition for spiritual bypassing. You can do that. What I am trying to do with this episode is to inspire you, empower you, activate you to have a look and see if some of the ways that I have been spiritually bypassing, if those are if you recognize those from your own life, and if you do, then begin making amends. As you will hear, not have had to, but when I say I've had to, it's because we are deeply connected to our hearts. We do not intentionally want to harm, but we may still do that. We may still we may still unintentionally harm people. And if we do that, it's extremely important that we go back and we say we're sorry, that we clean up and find a way to make amends for it. And I will share more about that as I go into the different ways that I see in my own life that I have spiritually bypassed. And so understand that, I understand that you come from a space of love and from a space of heart, but coming from a space of heart and a space of love can still be hurtful and dangerous, truth be told, if what you're doing is spiritually bypassing or being locked in a patriarchal white supremacy system. So it's about, again, this episode is about sharing my experiences, my own personal experiences, so that it may support you in lifting veils hindering your sight, and that's how I hope you will take this episode, and that's how I hope you will move forward from this episode. Now, in terms of spiritual bypassing, the way that I see it or view it, it's actually a strain. It's a strain that is connected to the it's a remnant or a strain within the patriarchy, within hold on, I have a fur baby who's not wanting to join. Hold on. So as I was saying, I see spiritual bypassing as a mechanism of patriarchy, designed to keep us separate and alone and ignorant and also ignorant to the world and to the world. And it's a very egotistical me way of spirituality, if that's what it's called. I'm not sure. But so I hope I now have said, number one, these are my experiences. Number two, the intention is to inspire, empower, uplift, and help you unveil and heal things. And that's not only just for you. I do this. One of the things you'll hear in the sacred conversation that I have next week with the beautiful Yvette Taylor, who's from the energy alignment method, is she shares how when 1% of the planet, 1% of the population of the planet is all that's needed in order for us to lift the awareness of all and to shift. And so that is simply my intention with this episode. So I hope you'll take, as always, what serves you and then leave the rest, and also be aware of if you're being triggered, go deeper and ask yourself what's coming up for you if you feel triggered by some of the things that I share. I know that I probably would have been. Very often when we are triggered, there is an underlying hurt that is underneath, because it is, as with some of the things that I will share, finding out that I, again, unintentionally, but still did hurt and say some very racist things to some people that I love, it was hurt. I was so hurt over that. But at the same time, my pain is nothing compared to the pain and the hurt that Indigenous people and people of color and minorities go through every single day. As a white person, and probably as a white woman, we are, and you are, incredibly privileged. And I understand that we all have our, lives, and we all go through dark nights of our souls. We all go through rude awakenings. But imagine throwing on top of that, also on a daily basis, being afraid and fearing for your and your children's lives just because of the color of your skin. So if you are triggered, I would say good. And I hope that you would take that trigger and look deeper, rather than just ignore or just run from what I'm saying. Use that trigger for good, for both you, but more importantly for the collective, for our planet and our earth. Because ultimately there's no way out. The only way is through. And so whenever you choose to work your way through things, you heal things and you move from fear to love. And that's what we're here for, at least in my opinion. Okay. I think I've skirted enough around trying to not dive into the actual, and it's because, sharing, this is personal stuff. So sharing what I've done in the past is not necessarily the most fun thing to do, but I am doing so in the hopes that it can support you and our world in the uplifting, the healing, the awakening that is happening and needs to continue. So the first common, so I'm going to go into some common ways that I see spiritual bypassing happening. And again, these are based on my experience. So the first one is ignoring your physical existence and also ignoring your, physical symptoms. So, and that, what that means is that, number one, you understand that you are a soul with a human, human experience, but to ignore that would mean to cut yourself off from all of the learning and the experiences that you get to have. And it would also mean that you actually cut your soul off from the evolution that it has undertaken. And so and I want to say this, the things that I'm going to go through, I think it's part of the human experience, unless you were born really open, and unless you are unless you were born really open, and unless you had family and parents and who were supportive of this, I think it's a path, or it's a part of your path. That's at least how I see it. So like I said, ignoring your physical existence, many light workers have, I don't want to say suicidal, but because there's a difference between being truly suicidal and having suicidal thoughts. And so I see and hear from many light workers who have that experience of not feeling at home, of wanting to leave this planet. And I have had that too. At the same time, knowing I would never take my own life, but not feeling at home here. And to me, that comes from when you ignore your physical existence, when you're trying to find your way in this body, in this world, that can be very, very difficult. And understanding and intuitively knowing that there is another way of being, then it can be easy to want to escape to that. And I remember I had a one of the sacred conversations I had with Jessica Reed. This was one of the things, I'll include that in the show notes. That was one of the things that she spoke to. The idea of being able to actually escape within your mind, to escape this existence. And how she stopped eating a whole lot, and didn't really, never really was here. And so that's one of the ways that I see that spiritual bypassing takes place. And the second part of that is ignoring your physical symptoms if you're ill. I know that personally that's something that I have done. Back in 2015, it started in 2014, and then in 2000, and continued throughout 2015, and culminated in August of 2015. I began having first sciatica, and then I was kind of treated, but I never really had it checked out until it actually turned into a full slip disc at the end of August. And me being quote unquote spiritual, I knew that there was a metaphysical reason for it, but I couldn't find it. And so it wasn't until I hadn't slept for weeks, because I was unable to sit or stand or lie, because I was in so much excruciating pain, that I actually chose to go the Western medicine way, that I chose to actually go see a doctor. I was, getting an X-ray or an MRI to make sure that, what was okay, what was going on, and also surrendering to painkillers, in order to get some kind of relief. This was after those many weeks, I was no longer able to sit still and meditate. I was no longer able to concentrate or focus. So it got to the point where it was so bad, and still to that point, it had to get to that point before I was even willing to go see a doctor or go the Western traditional way. I was trying. I was seeking out different psychics, and I was seeking out different spiritual medical intuitives to find out what was going on. And they couldn't really give me they gave me some answers, but that never really made any sense. And it didn't make any resolution for me. So it wasn't until I actually went that route and started and surrendered into taking painkillers and being okay with that for a while. I still had the whole A Course in Miracles, that it's not, it's your belief in the pill that it works, that makes it work, and not the actual pill. I still had that, and that's fine. At that point, I really didn't care. One thing that did work for me really well in terms of lowering my pain was TFT and tapping. And just to be clear, I am not saying don't take the pills, because I am very, very happy that I took the pills. And today, when I have my period or like deep cramps, I will take a pill, knowing that it's okay for me to feel okay. Now the back clicked into place on I think it was the 29th of December, when something that I apparently had been so scared of, and I wasn't aware of it, clicked into place. instantly it clicked into place. So that's how I know, if you want to call it miraculous healing, it's a shift in perspective from fear to love that happened, that clicked into place. But I don't think that I'm not sure I would have gotten to that place had I not actually taken the pill. So the ignoring of our physical existence, the ignoring of our physical body, and I understand, and I don't get how the hospitals are set up the way that they are. I don't understand how we're not looking at it holistically, knowing what you know probably as well as I do, how everything is connected. I don't understand how we don't look at, when you know that the back is connected to our safety, our security, our foundation, our stability. I don't understand how you're not sitting down with someone and talking about that as well, to kind of find out what's going on in that area. Because one area, working with a coach or a therapist or a physical therapist or an osteopath, those two things combined, and also with doctors and nurses to get your medication right. When you combine those things, you're really combining the best of everything. And that to me is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to, be holistic and combine everything, not to ignore one area or suppress one area, but actually to use it in combination. So if you're someone who has been ignoring something, because when a physical illness manifests in the body, usually it's been going on for a long while in the other layers of your aura, and you may have been ignoring that, or you may have been unaware even of it, as I wasn't aware that was it. But if there's something that's calling your attention, I really want to encourage you to make sure that you go and have it checked out. And then once you have an answer or an idea, you can then seek out the different routes and you can combine those different things. So it's not about ignoring your physical existence, saying this world is an illusion, we're not here. And again, also, that's another way, is that, the thinking that positive thinking will heal you. And I know that positive healing is a big part of it, and thinking your way through it can actually transform a shit ton of things. But if you ignore or suppress, that's based in fear, and so it's no bueno. It's not good. So this is an invitation for you to check in with yourself and see if there's something that you've been ignoring within, a physical ailment that you've been ignoring, and then go have it checked out. Make sure that you get it checked out and have and look at it holistically. And then also in terms of the other physical, your existence, what really was my breakthrough in terms of understanding why I'd come here, because I couldn't understand. I was like, why did I come into a body to be in this much misery and pain? And when I realized that was not the purpose of it, it was, first of all, to experience, having the experiences that we have, because being in a physical existence, you have the world of duality, and outside of this, there is just oneness. And I'm sure it's beautiful, and I know because of the experiences, but you never get to experience, rain falling on your face, or sun in your or water lapping across your feet, or wind, or all of the human emotions and feelings that come up, and heartbreak and heartache and deep love and seeing your child for the first, like all of these things you don't get to experience if you're not in a human form. So and to me it was all about also understanding that I'm here for a purpose, and my purpose is to be of service, and that was a big breakthrough. So that is in terms of the physicality when it comes to spiritual bypassing. Then there is the one that I already kind of mentioned, and that is that the world is an illusion. If you've heard a few episodes, you probably know that I am A Course in Miracles changed my life. It transformed everything, both in my life, my personal life, and in my business. The way that I do things, everything changed with A Course in Miracles. One of the things that I've not yet reconciled with in terms of A Course in Miracles is that parts of it seem to be very spiritually bypassing, and that could be my judgment. But to me, A Course in Miracles is very clear in the way that love is the way, and so when it speaks to the world being an illusion, it's a projection of what goes on inside of us. I understand that, and that's for us to heal and to clear. And when we do that, the world becomes a better place. However, you're not here just to make this world a better place for you. It's about the collective. It's about the uplifting of us all. And while I do understand that on an energetic level, there is no boundaries, we're all connected. In a physical world, we do see different people. We are in different forms, whether it be a human form or animal form or, in different forms. But still, if you choose to ignore the world for your own personal, I don't want to say gain, but satisfaction, pleasure, that's not the word. If you ignore the world, if you have to ignore the world in order to, because it makes you feel sad or scared or fearful, then you're really not part of the solution, and you're part of the problem. And it's for us to, because once we have all of these tools, you've gone through things and you've gained these experiences and these tools, and those tools are to be used in the service for the higher good of all. I've said this many times on the show. It's not about you and us, me, getting my shit together and then taking off saying, "See ya, suckers." It's about the uplifting and the being of service to the collective. And so the world is an illusion is something that I understand on a spiritual level, but I also understand that the lenses that I see with are for me to lift, but it's also for me to ensure that the structures, the social structures that we have in place, for example, the systemic racism, that has to be done on the physical level because it's on the physical level. So that has to be to be dissolved by our actions. And if good people turn away, I'm not trying to quote Martin Luther King, although I think he has a quote about this. If we turn away from that, who's going to be the solution? And what kind of a world? Then you can go live on an island and then hope that no one gets to your island. Who said no man is an island? I can't remember, but it's about all of us. And so this is one of the ways where it becomes very clear that spiritual bypassing is extremely dangerous and extremely harmful to many people on this earth, and especially those of the minorities and those of the indigenous tribes and people, and then also people of color. And if we turn away, and when I say turn away, I don't mean becoming a white savior. I don't mean that you run in, but I mean to support, to back up, to listen, to give space, to choose, to be willing to find, and there are many, many more than you probably even realize, because I've gotten surprised many, many, many times and still do, the ways that racism and white supremacy is deeply ingrained in you, whether or not you want it. I didn't want it, but it still is, and you have to acknowledge it in order to heal it and get rid of it, to make sure that you do truly stand for the justice for all. And in terms of Yeshua, Jesus, if we look, I'm not one really to quote the Bible because I'm not too keen on religion and what they've done with his mission. But there are plenty of examples of Jesus not turning away, of Jesus, taking in the poor, the sick, the unfortunate. And so if you want an example, that's it. Like, that's the way of doing and the way of being. It's not about ignoring, closing your door. It's about making sure. And one of my quote unquote favorite parts, I haven't fully read the Bible, but one of the favorite stories from the Bible is the turning of the tables in front of the temple. Because it's like, fuck this shit. I'm done with it. No, like, no. This is so wrong. And showing that quote unquote aggression. Very often we take aggression to be bad. But if we use our aggression, and I don't mean violence, but I mean that there is a righteous anger. You have to get angry in terms of, when you see that your brothers and your sisters of color, of the plant and the animal kingdom, when you see how they're being treated, if that does not anger you or sadden you, then I would suggest that you take a look at what's going on. Because if you become so numb to the world that you're just in your own little bubble, then again, you're not part of the solution. And if you're here and still here after everything I've said, that to me speaks to you being part of the solution. And that's what I know Yeshua was and is. And that's what I know Mary Magdalene to be. And even all of the Magdalenes, they're not for spiritual bypassing. They're for the uplifting of the world. And that is sometimes shit scary. It takes us through dark nights. It takes us through rude awakenings. It takes us through pain. But it is to arrive at the place where satisfaction, joy, and fulfillment, true fulfillment, lives. And if all of your being and your doing is just for your own personal fulfillment, then good luck with that. I mean, I've done now almost 50 episodes of the Magdalene Voices. I'm being paid shit for this. The people that I have on are not being paid for this. It's just me. It's me doing it. This is my way of trying, at least in some small way of form, to support the uplifting of it. So, so the world, the idea that the world is an illusion, I understand. I also, again, want to emphasize that if it's harmful and hurtful in any way, it's not serving. And that, like I said, is that is one of my, I'm still working on that in terms of A Course in Miracles, in terms of how to, and it may be because for some, A Course in Miracles has also become kind of religious, and I don't see A Course in Miracles as a religion. I see it as a psychotherapeutic tool to shift your mind from fear to love, simply. Now the I'm not sure where I'm at. 3/4 thing is it's spiritual bypassing, but it's also inherent racism. It's the idea that, because, it's the idea that I don't see color. It's the idea that there's just one human race. And I will include a link to an NPR episode about how, I think it's called How Races Began. And it's from that, races started in order for us to separate ourselves so that we were able to suppress and abuse another quote unquote race. Because if we consider people of another color to be our equals, or people of another religion, because this has happened with slavery, it's happened with the indigenous tribes, it happened not too long ago under the Second World War in terms of the Jews. If you want to abuse and enslave a people, you make them separate, because we can't abuse if we consider them to be our equals, then we cannot abuse them in good, quote unquote, conscious abuse them. So there are so many deeply prejudiced ideas ingrained in everything and every day, that once you begin to unravel that, it's mind-boggling how blind we can be, and I have been, at least, and still are in parts. I'm not ever done with this work, I think. But so I'm going to include that. So the idea that is one, and this is a personal thing. I have a dear friend who is of I'm not sure if it's correct. So pardon me, mixed or she's of mixed color or biracial, and we had this discussion, and I said, oh, but we're just one human race. And so, is race not just, is it not just an excuse? I can't remember the full thing of it. And I was very blessed to have a friend who was able to hold space for me and didn't judge, even though that was deeply racist. And so later on, when I found out just how racist I'd been, I went back and I said, I am so sorry. And I apologized. And again, I'm blessed that she accepted my apology and knew that I had no ill intent, but still it's hurtful and it's harmful. So if this is something that you have, done in the past, I would highly encourage you to go make amends and just say you're sorry, because those words are deeply healing. Like saying you're sorry. I'm sorry, please forgive me for whatever racist thing that you've done. And again, racism doesn't have to, wear the Nazi mark, and it doesn't look like we think it looks. It's ingrained, and it's so heavily imbued in our societal structures, especially if you're from a Western country, that you will be mind blown once you start being willing to see, and to being willing to see, then yeah, you will be mind blown. So the way to, and the idea that I don't see color is actually very demeaning. Because it takes away from the person's ethnicity, from their culture, from their background, from their upbringing, from everything. And so rather than not seeing color, I encourage you to honor it, to applaud it, to seek out wisdom about it, to understand more. And one of the things that I'm hoping to have on the show, and someone I'm looking for, is I want to have more about the kingdoms of Africa, and I want to share more about the original, because if you look at, for example, if we go into Egypt, one of the things that I found is that within the 25th dynasty, there was the Black kings and queens, and that's completely ignored, and it's completely been obliterated by, and I think it's only because Beyonce and Jay-Z have actually uplifted. That's who I've seen lifted up. I don't think I can get Beyonce on the show, although she would be welcome, but that's parts of what I'm diving into in terms of that as well, is that I want to shine a light on that more. So if you're someone who knows of that, feel free to use the form to shoot me an email, and let me know if you know of scholars or people who work within this area, because I'd love to shine a light on that. Then, and as I said, I'm going to wrap up because this has gone way longer than I actually thought it would. And as I said, it's not as bad as I was worried about that it would be when I first started out. But that's okay. Again, also because I am white and I am privileged. And so I'm not the one who has to live with this on a daily basis. And having that understanding actually opens your heart and your eyes and your mind even more, and expands your desire to be of service, not in the let me save you, let me lead you, let me whatever, but in the listening, the uplifting, the supporting way. So I'm wondering what my final word should be, and that I guess I'm hoping that by this I've given you, first of all, I've given you an idea of where to look in terms of spiritual bypassing when it comes to yourself. I hope I've given you the understanding that yes, we are all one, but there are systems in place that want to make us separate so that we can suppress, ignore, abuse other people. And also, thirdly, I hope that you've realized that the work that you do personally is not just for you, it's for everyone. And so if it's only about you, if it's only about, your own personal path, your own and I understand that, as I walk this journey, I see that there is a time when you cannot but be about yourself and it cannot but be about you. But once that starts to lift, then your next step is to begin being, including of, the work that you've done. Make sure that also ripples into every other area, so that it becomes for the collective and not just for, you. That's what I had for you today. If you have any questions or any comments, you're welcome to post them on the blog post. Yes, I love you. Take care. That is what I had for you in today's episode of the Magdalene Voices. For all of the deeds and the details, find the show notes on my website, mariastella.com. Know that I would love to hear how it resonated with you and what you got from it. So tag me on Instagram or leave me a comment on either my website or YouTube. Finally, if it served you, please take a moment to share it with a friend or on social media. God bless.